So I'm Fred Jacobs, Jacobs Media, and Jack Apps as well.
Yes, Jake Apps, actually.
My
well, but
mistake,
no,
Jake
you know what?
Apps.
Everybody pronounce it. See, I just mispronounce.
Yeah.
But no, everybody mispronounces it, which has actually sort of been one of these strange little memory tricks for the thing. But yeah, we originally named it, with a Jake.
Jacobs. Jake Apps.
Right.
Makes sense.
So I don't know, maybe that connection didn't quite get made, but a lot of the apps we make are for radio stations, so it's worked out pretty well.
In your years of watching radio transform, what's the most surprising thing that you can say today in 2014, wow, I did not see this coming?
I think it's the connected car. I mean, we saw the internet coming.
Yep.
We saw smartphones coming. We saw social media coming.
Yep.
I mean, maybe not from the beginning, but it was pretty clear that this was going to grow to become something bigger than what it started out to be. But the car is really an anomaly because we've taken that for granted, right? We've always had ubiquity in the car.
Monopoly.
It's always been simple, right? 2 knobs, 12 presets, just us, with maybe the exception of an occasional intruder like an 8-track player or a cassette.
Media.
Right. And all of a sudden, almost like a tsunami, the car is changing so rapidly, and all the car companies are just killing themselves. They are spending so much money to develop new technology for the center stack. And what that really means to radio is that the party's over, and that you just don't compete against the station down the dial. You compete against absolutely everybody. So I think that's one of the things that really has snuck up on the business. And every time I do a straw poll at these conferences, as I just did here at CMW, and show of hands, how many of you own a connected car or have driven one? And it's no more than 5 or 10% of the room. So yeah, it's like an epidemic, and it's a real concern that radio gets up to speed on this connected car topic.
Would you say there are any other issues or challenges that affect radio that are even close to the connected car crisis/opportunity?
Well, I don't think there's anything close, but I think another challenge/opportunity is social media. So if you think about it, the ways that you would interface with the radio station, a decade ago, were pretty much you would call the request line or the studio line, right? Or the station would be at an event and you'd see a DJ. And not everybody did those things, but that was really the connection point. Well, now people have all these different ways of interfacing with the station, and in fact, a lot of them want to do that. They want to have input, they want to be heard, they want to feedback, they want to do all these things, and yet radio has never really been accustomed to that. It's always on our terms. We broadcast, you listen. We do it when we want to do it. When we want to put it out there, we will. Maybe we will return your phone calls and your letters. Maybe we won't. We'll see. And now all of a sudden we're living in a time when people expect to be heard. They expect to be listened to. And yet, even from a social media standpoint, and this is something that Lori Lewis is going to be talking about at this conference, the importance of acknowledgement and taking the time to like what somebody has said or respond to a comment personally or retweet it. And one thing that we learned from our new tech survey is that there is a percentage of the audience that absolutely says, if you acknowledge me, I will listen to you more.
If you had to direct some new people who wanted to start a business that was going to compete in the world of media engagement, like a radio company, who would you say you should emulate what these guys are doing?
Well, there are a handful of radio brands that I think are doing an amazing job, and without naming names, I mean there are some brands that are just hitting it out of the park. It is the live piece, it is the local piece, it is personality based. I don't think there's any question that moving forward, just being a jukebox in this environment is obviously not going to cut it. So they are really reimagining their brands as multimedia players, but still based around a local experience and personalities. And so I think that's important. I'll tell you who I look at a lot these days. I think what's happening in television is really fascinating right now. There is actually more risk-taking happening in television than there is in the motion picture industry.
Absolutely.
And when you look at these long-form series, and so maybe it started with The Sopranos, I don't know. But when you look at these series and the way that they have sucked people in,
Yes.
and the ability to be able to, so I didn't watch Homeland for the first 2 years, but via Netflix or on demand, I can go back and do that. I think that's fascinating, and the way they have integrated social media into the experience is brilliant, because people are interfacing with these shows on a very, very emotional level. So I think that's another piece. The third example I would give you is, again, television, but it is all the TV networks and even local stations that are essentially doing their equivalent of morning radio and quietly stealing listeners away from us, whether it's Good Morning Mississauga, or I don't know if that's real, but it may as well be, or even like Morning Joe on MSNBC. I mean, when you actually look at television in the morning, it looks like radio shows, and
so TV's learning from radio, and radio's learning from TV.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah, because it's all one content pile now, isn't it?
Absolutely.